Saludos, I am William Rodriguez. Medical miracles are taking place almost every day of our lives, but very seldom you hear about them. About physically challenged children whose lives have been changed by the goodwill of doctors and nurses. NJN's health and medical correspondent, Sarah Lee Kessler, covered an amazing story featuring children from the Dominican Republic.
On this May Day, the plane's approach signals dozens of people, including anxious host families, to stand by. Wheelchairs are readied. So are the stuffed animals. 46 Dominican children have been handpicked by a local clinic, Corazones Unidos, to receive medical treatment here. Some have crippling birth defects. Others are disfigured. Several have cancer.
This girl, she has a vesical extrophy.
What does that mean?
There's something in the stomach open, and Carmen, she has a heart disease.
What is Rodell going to have done?
Surgery to correct congenital deformity to his hands.
Through donations, Healing the Children has organized and paid for this airlift. It's 14th from the Dominican Republic in 13 years. As always, the children will receive free medical care at New Jersey hospitals, 11 this time.
I've had the opportunity to witness tremendous miracles. I've had children who had critically ill diseases survive, and crippled children walk.
Last March, Mariluz Perez, who was born with spina bifida, was among them.
And what more can you ask for to be part of a miracle like that?
Wow, qué linda.
For some host families, it's reunion time. Jasmine and Nazmil, conjoined twins who were separated at St. Joseph's last year, have returned with their mother for follow-up care.
I thank God, the doctors, for everything. I feel good about being here.
Once again, the twins and their mom are staying in Westfield with Kathy and Ed Queenan.
If you think of without our assistants and the doctors, you know, what type of quality of life would they have? You've affected their life immeasurably. And that's a great feeling.
At the airport, you encounter a wide range of emotions. A toddler crying for a mother who's remained behind. A host parent trying to work through language barriers. A mother hopeful that additional hip surgery will enable her son, Rafael, to walk.
They relocated his femur. The head of his femur was like this. Now they're going to put it in place.
In the meantime, Rafael is satisfied simply to charm us with his smile.
He'll grab the hand of anyone kind enough to put their hand out. And when you see their faces, how can you not extend yourself?
Joining us is NJN News correspondent Sarah Lee Kessler. Sarah Lee, tell us about the emotional drama you experienced in meeting these children.
Well, William, it was an emotional experience. These children, of course, were very scared when they first arrived in the United States. It was quite a culture shock. There were many of them arriving without their mothers and staying with people, many of whom did not speak their language, Spanish. They adjusted very readily because the kids from Healing the Children, they're just like kids from everywhere. They need a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of affection. It was just wonderful seeing these kids and meeting the doctors, meeting the host families, and the people who organize the trips every year, twice a year, to this area, to the New Jersey area, to give these kids a new chance at life, to change them, to transform crippling birth defects and to repair their faces and their smiles. It was wonderful.
This really touches our hearts. It's a beautiful story. How do you come across this story?
I came across this story when I was contacted by Evelyn Dudacek and Maureen Casey of Healing the Children. They told me about their work. It is a nonprofit foundation that funds all this, and they told me about their work. They work with a doctor from a clinic in the Dominican Republic, Corazones Unidos, and he chooses the children to come to the United States who he cannot help down there because they just don't have the resources to do some of the more sophisticated operations, including repairing congenital heart defects. So they told me and offered me the opportunity to go to the airport and to meet the children and to profile some of them, and I am really grateful for that, because it's a wonderful bicultural opportunity, and it really expands the friendships between us and between, I think, the Dominican Republic and all of Latin America, where Healing the Children does its fine work.
It does create some bonding with the family that are hosting their visit over here, and at the same time, it creates not only a cultural exchange, but an emotional exchange.
It really does. As you saw in the first piece, there was a little boy named Rodal who was less than 2 years old, and I asked his host father, George Brewer, what he was going to have done, and he showed me his hand that was deformed and said that it's going to be repaired. It turns out that you'll see later in the program that we did follow Rodal's story. Rodal is the 15th Healing the Children foster child who's been taken in and helped by the Brewer family. Now, this is a family in their late 50s. They've got 5 grown kids of their own, 4 grandkids, 15 Healing the Children foster children, and they have their Healing the Children foster kids play with their grandkids. At first, no one understands each other very well, because the kids come and they speak Spanish, and you know, the Brewers speak English, but by the time these kids go home, they can talk very, very well in English. You know, they bring a lot of English and a lot of ideas back to the Dominican Republic.
You also covered a second story of a very special young lady. Can you tell us about it?
Her name is Giselle. Giselle was born with a very common facial deformity, cleft lip, cleft palate. And as you can imagine, for a young, lovely woman in any culture, whether it's in the DR or whether it's in New Jersey, it's very tough to grow up and be sad every time you look in the mirror. Let's take a look at that story.
Let's do it.
Giselle Perez was born 12 years ago with a cleft lip, cleft palate, and no nose.
When I saw her first time, she had no nostrils at all, and she was breathing through the mouth and nasal openings. I couldn't even pass a probe.
Dr. P.K. Sharma, a Bergen County plastic surgeon, says such birth defects are common in third world countries, including the Dominican Republic, which Giselle calls home. He operated on Giselle for the first time 2 years ago, when she was airlifted here by Healing the Children.
Because it was quite stuck, we raised the nose, and then I took a bone from her hip to graft it and to lift this tip of the nose.
And when she went back, she looked really pretty normal, but obviously something went wrong.
Giselle's nose collapsed, reigniting the teasing and embarrassment she's known her entire life.
Because no one likes to be called names. Me neither. I don't call anyone names.
So last month, Healing the Children flew Giselle back to New Jersey. This time, Dr. Sharma has used ear cartilage to rebuild Giselle's nose.
Ask her, is she happy?
¿Usted está feliz con los resultados? She is, Dr. Sharma.
Wow, that was a very touching story.
Well,
you know, it's incredible, because I put myself on the shoes of the little girl, and the teasing itself must be very hard for her.
Oh, it's very difficult. And Giselle will be back again, because you heard me mention in the story that this was her second operation. But once Healing the Children makes a commitment to a child, it commits to bringing that child back as many times as are needed through age 18. So Giselle may be back 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and she'll probably go back to the very same family, because generally the host families fall in love with their kids, and they want them back within their own family units in their own houses, and they want to gauge their progress. And I would like to tell you that I've received so many comments on these stories. I've done about 4 or 5 Healing the Children stories over the past few years. I get lots of calls from viewers, from people who would really like to become a host family. It's not hard to do. You don't have to have any kind of special qualifications except, well, I take that back. You have to have one.